Good morning, it's that pumpkin time of year. I've already done my fun pumpkin to cover a chocolate orange, but I'd made these particular pumpkins, these little guys here, and I put some pictures up and people going, oh, have you got a pattern, etc, etc, which I had for me, but I wasn't going to do it as a pattern to sell because they are so mind-blowingly simple. Didn't think it was necessary, but what I've decided to do is, rather than a pattern, because some of it's a bit hard to describe verbally, is show you on a video. So that is what I'm going to do today. They are so quick and simple. They look way more complicated than they are, and you can do it in various different yarns and shapes and sizes, and it's easy enough to alter to make larger ones, etc, etc. So this is what we're going to look at. I'll be doing the little one today, and then I'll just sort of let you know how you can increase it and how I've made the larger one. So I'll pop them there. I've got my usual tools. I've got my scissors. I've got my big ones because I can't find my little ones for some reason. They're not my fave scissors, but they'll do. I've got my sewing up needles. I have a 3.5mm hook. You could do it on a 4 if you're using a double knit yarn. If you're using a chunky, I'd recommend maybe a 4.5 to a 5mm hook, because chunky, obviously, you're going to come out with a larger pumpkin. Same with any crochet or knitting likes. You can make this larger or smaller purely by changing your yarn and changing your hook size. So that's a great way of getting a combination. So you've got a mixture. Now I used my Style Craft here. That's the basic orange. I've got a couple of other colours which I'll have a chat with. This one here, how I got this was basically using the two threads together. It can be a little annoying when you get until you get started a little way, but basically by crocheting the two together as you go, so I usually keep them in two separate bags when I'm doing that because they don't get tangled, you actually end up with this nice mild pattern, so you get a little bit different, and it's always going to be different whichever one you do. So that is why I have that one there, just to show you that I have mixed the two. Now for the actual tops, I didn't have a colour I wanted, because again I wanted this slide. I'm just looking what on earth I've got on the back of my hand. I do not know. It's gone now. I think it's makeup. Right, for this little bit here, I wanted not just a plain brown. I didn't have anything else, but I did have this, which is lots of different colours, I know, but because you don't need much, I just used a percentage of it to actually do that and to do the bits around the edges. So I will use that again, but if you've got a plain one, it will be much easier because I'm going to run out of that at a certain point. So pop that down. I've also got this yarn to show you because I cannot wait to use this. Obviously I've got to ball it up yet. It's one I've just purchased and I've never used it before. It was the colours, purely the colours. I was looking for pumpkin colours, and I think that's going to make one pretty smart pumpkin. It's more of a cotton type of yarn, but those colours are absolutely divine. Let's have a look. Prima Ballerina it's called. It is 50% cotton, 50% acrylic. That will be interesting. So I look forward to having a go at that one myself for my reasonings, or I may even pop a couple on Etsy in this colour. But yeah, really like that. But let's get on. We've got the pattern. I have my double knit yarn. Oh, I've got a bit of stuffing as well. That would be a good idea. I've got to stuff it with something, haven't we? So we need our slip knot, same as always, or whatever preferred method you have, onto my hook, not too tight. Now this pumpkin is purely amigurumi, really. It's all it is a ball. I know it doesn't look like a ball here, but that is all it's going to be. So I'm going to start the same as I do any of my amigurumi. We have 2 chain. We have 6 double crochets into that first chain. So that's 2. Oh, or not. Why do I always do that? 3, 4. Dear, my fingers today. 5, and one more 6. Now, don't worry about this, because if they've got a good slip knot, you can just do that. So it's not something to actually worry about there. We're now going to do 2 double crochets into every single one of those 6, giving us 12. Now, obviously, reminder, UK terms I'm using here. You're using US terms, this would all be in single crochet. So that's 2. Oh, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So we've now got 12 stitches, so that was easy enough to do. I've just realized something I haven't put out was a stitch marker, but I will use a bit of yarn for that because it is something I do quite often. I'll start a piece of work and I'm like, oh, I've not got a stitch marker. I can't necessarily be bothered to get up, so I'll use a piece of wool. So I'll show you how I'll do that in a second. We're going to do another 2 double crochets in every single one. So we have 6. I'm not going to put my stitch marker in yet because it'll get in the way. So I know it's got 6. We had 12, should I say. So I'm going to count 12 stitches with 2 in every single one. So that was 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, a couple more, that's 10, 11 and 12. Absolutely love doing these pumpkins, actually. I mean, I was thinking of just doing them for myself, but people have already started asking me, you know, for buying them and that, which I am doing as well. So let's take a little bit of this yarn. I like a nice contrast yarn. Quick snip with the scissors. And as I say, because I've not got a stitch marker, I'm just going to push my hook through, put the yarn across, and hopefully pull it through. There we go. Not all the way through though, because I only want it part way. You do have to watch this. It does have a tendency to fall out, but it's just, you're going to be going on some straight rounds soon, so it's just a guide really. But obviously a proper stitch marker would be better than putting a piece of yarn through. I use the yarn if it's something tiny, because obviously stitch markers are quite often too big. Now we're going to do another increase round, and it's again very similar to every piece of amigurumi I've done. You're going to do 2 double crochets in one, 1 double crochet in the next, 2, 1, 2, 1, all the way around. This will give us an increase of 12 stitches, so you'll end up with 36 stitches. So that's the first one. That's the second set. So remember, 2 in the first one, 1 in the second one. So that's 3 sets. 2 in the first one, 1 in the second one. So I've done 4 sets now, and I'm about halfway around, so that seems about right. So this will be my 5th set. So 2 in 1, 1 in 1. My 6th set. 7th. This is where you have to hope it actually works. 7th. It should do. 8th. I think I've counted it right. 9th. Remember, this is sets I'm referring to, so 9th set. 10th set, so 2 in 1, 1 in 1. 11. And 1 more set, so 2 in this one, and 1 in the next one, and we should be back to where our yarn is. Yeah, we did it. Now you're now going to sort of think, oh, it's curving, it's doing something wrong. Don't worry about that. That is actually going to straighten out as we start going on to our other stitches. You should get a little bit of a wobble, to be honest, so don't worry about it at all. It's nice and simple. Now the next one we're going to do are just double crochet rounds, so that is why our marker's useful now. So but we're actually going to do, how many have I got on there? I've got 7. If you want to make a fatter pumpkin, that is where you'd do more. If you want to make a bigger pumpkin, also this is where you'd have an increased row. Now if you just use a thicker yarn, you'll get away with that. Or if you double your yarn up like that one, you just come out with a larger pumpkin. So you don't necessarily have to increase. But if you did want to do another increase round, I would do 1 double crochet round first before you increase. So, but I'm not going to do that on this. I'll just do my double crochets and just try and tell you where you would increase. That's why it's a funny one for doing a pattern, because everybody seems to want different sizes. And yeah, you can write out 3 patterns to sort of show different sizes, but everybody's going to be different anyway. I just recommend you play around with your yarns, different brands of yarns, different textures of yarns, because pumpkins are not something that are very uniformed. I know if you go in the supermarket, you see all these orange pumpkins, you know, mainly looking the same, not always. I actually quite like the ones that are a bit quirky, that have got a different shape, and I love the artisan ones. Because like I said, the one I can't find, oh, just dropping my stuff, is the one I've done in that colour, and you'll see a picture of it on the page when I do it. But I absolutely love it. It's more like a butternut squash colouring, because essentially, perhaps we should say squashes rather than pumpkins, because they do come in all shapes and sizes nowadays, and I quite like the idea of having lots of different ones, not all the same. And especially if you're doing a display, I think it can look nice, have lots of different sizes and shapes and colours, variegations. I think it makes it just look a little bit more interesting. So I would recommend you just play around. Keep to this basic pattern and just play around with your yarns. Or if you know how to increase, you'll know what to do anyway. So that is one round there. I've got pen and paper here, so I'm going to mark it down because I'll forget where I am if I don't. We have to have pen and paper. So this is the tedious bit for you now. If you know what you're doing, as I said, there is 7 rounds of double crochets. So if you want to sort of get on with your double crochets and just skip that part of the video, please, by all means. And again, I will mention, if you think I'm going a little bit fast, if you are literally following along, I would recommend you just alter your settings and pop me on a slightly slower sort of frame. But you don't need to sort of worry about listening to my voice, I don't think, for that. I will sound a little bit weird if you do. You can see how it's starting to sort of flatten out, you know, with that wobbly, see how that's a wobbly side and that's now quite a smooth side. So it will just do it. So don't worry about it. And again, if we get a slightly lopsided pumpkin, as I mentioned, who cares? Pumpkins are different shapes and sizes. You just tell everybody that you've deliberately made artisan pumpkins. The only time that becomes an issue is like when I do sell mine. If I show a picture of a set of pumpkins, those sets of pumpkins have to be identical for the person who's purchasing it. So then you do have to be careful with your patterns. I've noticed there are quite a few gorgeous patterns out there at the moment, but some of them are a little bit more complicated, stunning if you can do them. But if you can't, this is a great way of not having to worry about them. So I've marked down 2. I'm not sure whether I've done 2 or 3. I'm going to have to say this is my 3rd. One day I'll mark it down properly. But I am quite sort of, well, not lax with my crochet. That's the wrong word, because it sounds like I don't care. I do care, but I don't overly worry. If I go wrong, I either just undo it, because it's easy enough to undo crochet, or I have a look at it and think, well, could I change its shape? Does it matter if the shape is changed? And you can alter it from there, especially if it's just for yourself. That's why I'm not fond of making garments and things, not people garments anyway, because you've got to stay to the patterns really strict. And I like to be a little bit more freestyle. That's why Amigurumi suits me so well. I was planning on doing an Amigurumi from my book this week. I've got a little teddy bear I wanted to do, just a little cute sort of chunky guy. So I will be doing that hopefully next week. If I get time, I may do it this week, but I think I'm going to run out of time with the things I've got to do. So possibly he's not going to appear this week, but I do want to do another item from my book, because it's been that long since, well, not that long, it's been a while since the book was published, and I've learned a huge amount since I published the book myself. I think my work is a lot better. So I want to take some of the patterns, make some adjustments, and then hopefully you guys will have a go at doing them. And also they are tiny crochet, so I try and make them larger for the videos, as those of you who've seen my frog know how I did that. Can you see how it's starting to curve into a basket? That's good. We're getting our shape that we want. So I'm on my 4th round now, so I'm just over halfway. I reckon you could probably, if you had quiet time sitting doing the pumpkin, there's a good chance you could get its body out in, what, 35-40 minutes? Could be quicker. Some of you could be really fast. I I would say definitely within the hour, definitely. Now, as I've mentioned with stitch markers, we do have to be careful, because when you're going in a spiral form, like Amigurumi is, the stitch mark position can change. So I'm going to stop there and move it. Just move it up and pull it through. It's not pulled through, was it? There we go. So can you see, I'm going to turn it that way now, because that's better, because that's the side we need to see. For a long time when I first started, I was doing my crochet on the inside, and I wondered why mine was more textural than everybody else's. That's because all my work was inside out. But to be honest, if you look, it actually does give quite a nice texture. So if you're wanting that effect, there's no reason why you can't have it that way. But that is the right side now. But it always curves to the wrong side, so that is why it makes you think that's the direction it's going. Right, we're on number 5 now. I really do need to buy myself a timer. Obviously the phone does have, that I'm filming on, does have a clock on it, but the clip I use to hold my phone in place, excuse me, always covers it up so I can't see it. I can tell it's starting to get a little bit cooler here now, going towards autumn. Oh, are we in autumn? September, autumn? I think it is, isn't it? Everybody's getting little colds and coughs and a little tickle in my throat at the moment. We're nearly round on our 5th round. So there's only 2 more rounds before we start decreasing. And as soon as you start decreasing, well, it gets easier and faster, doesn't it? Number 5. So you can properly see the shape coming now. I absolutely love doing double crochet stitches. I love the density that the stitch creates. It creates a quite stiff sort of product, which is great for if you're doing little toys and things like that. The only thing is, like with this, it can get a little tedious when you've got a lot of rounds to do. And if I'm tired, the amount of times I've been crocheting and nearly fallen asleep, because it's quite hypnotic if you're sort of just staring at the hook as you're going. So I wouldn't recommend you do it when you're sleepy. Or if you need to go to sleep, it's a great way of making yourself go to sleep. Just watch me doing this. That's not very good, is it? I shouldn't promote myself as in a way to get yourself to sleep. Right, that's number 7. We just got 1 more round before we start with that decrease. I'd like to thank you guys that have started following me as well. It's lovely to see that people are actually interested in the crochet items and my other things, of course, as well. But on YouTube you can see whether people have looked at certain items, you know, as in how many people have watched your video, for example, on crochet. And it's lovely to see that people are actually watching, which means hopefully I'm doing something right, or that you're at least enjoying the patterns and having a go. I know all those YouTubers do promote at the end of our videos, you know, like, subscribe, etc, etc. There is a reason for that, especially now for new YouTubers like myself. You do have to have a minimum amount of subscribers or watch time to actually be able to turn it into anything resembling a business, because you do not get, there is no monetization at all at this level. So I hope you do appreciate some of the guys that are out there, because I've got a lot of friends as well that do this, and I do follow a lot of other people who make or have dolls or things like that, because you know it helps them build their little business, because you know it takes a lot of time and effort to make sort of reasonable content or good content. So I hope you do follow people. I know I do try and do it with my friends as well. So we are now on a decrease round. We have 2 together, 1 DC, 2 together, 1 DC, all the way around. So they're in little sets. I've got my marker, so I'm not going to think about the counting. I'm just going to go with it. So remember, 2 together, you go in, you pull through. We don't finish this stitch. You go into the next one, pull it through. We now should have 3. We pull it through all 3. Pull it nice and tight afterwards. 1 double crochet. That's the easy bit. Remember, in, pull it through. Do not finish the stitch. Into the next one, pull it through. We have 3. Pull it through all 3. Tighten it up. And that is what we're going to do all the way around. So that is actually decreasing us by 12 stitches, because it's sort of reversing. Oh, lost it again. It's reversing what we did as we increased. We're making a ball. That's all we're actually doing. We're making a little ball shape. So as much as the pumpkins look like there's lots of shaping and that, there isn't. It is a ball. The shaping comes in when we actually use the thread to shape it. That's why I say it's quick. It's probably the easiest pumpkin you can do. So I wasn't, as I said, wasn't sure whether to do a video, because there's a lot out there and there's some gorgeous pieces. But then I thought, no, we'll have something really quick and easy, very quick and easy. And then you can have a full pile of them. And you can do some of the nicer ones as well. Nicer? That's like saying mine's not nice. They are nice. I love my pumpkins. I'm really proud of them. More complicated ones, should I say. It gives you a chance to have a mixture. Again, it would look nice to have a mixture. In fact, if you did one from every single person who's done a pattern, that'd be interesting. You'd have a pile of pumpkins. Right, I'm going to say that's round. But you can see we're curving round now. I mean, I'm saying it's a ball. It's a rather squat ball, but it is actually like a little ball. I'm going to do just a double crochet round. So our stitches have reduced now. I'm just going to move these because they drive me up the wall. They get in my way. So I'm just shoving them in there. But you're going to be stuffing, so they're not going to get in the way after that, are they? Right, all the way around, just a double crochet round. I like to do, if it's possible, it's not always possible depending on the pattern, a double crochet round after a decrease, because I think it just neatens it up. Because a decrease can, if you do say 3 decrease rows back to back, which you might have to depending on the pattern, I think it can look a little lumpy. So in the pattern, if you're able to do a double crochet, just a straight double crochet round after an decrease, dear me, I think I need my breakfast because I've not had it yet, or a cup of coffee. That would help. I've not actually had anything yet. I will have something soon. Nearly there. We're not even going to need that stitch marker soon. Right, so we're round. You can see how it's pulling in. So we're getting like a proper little sort of pudding shape now. We are going to have to do some more decreasing. We're going to decrease so it'll get you all the way down to 12 stitches, but it's going to be the same as the other one. So it's 2 together, 1, 2 together, 1, 2 together, 1, all the way around. So 2 together, 1, 2 together, 1. Don't overly worry about the counting. Use your stitch marker as your base. As long as you've moved it up a couple of times during your work, it'll be there for the centre point. 2 together and 1. 2 together and 1. These seem to be staying in the centre of the work now, I'm hoping. I'm very aware actually though it is different on phones compared with the computer. I do a lot of work on my computer, but apparently it can look slightly different on other systems. Right, I need to stuff it now, because if I make that hole too much smaller, I'm not going to be able to get my stuffing in very easily. We can get rid of the stitch marker. Let's get this stuff in. Sometimes it's a bit stiff when you get stuff in, so I like to just sort of fluff it up a bit before I actually pop it in to the item I'm working with, because then you don't get lumpy work, because you can end up with lumpy shapes if you're not careful. Nice toy grade stuffing. Always check that it's a good quality stuffing for safety issues, and obviously it needs to be fire retardant, etc. I think that should be all right. I think that's about right. We've now got to close this hole up, and all we're going to do is 2 double crochets together all the way around until the hole is closed. So we keep going round. Now this is where the stuffing gets in the way, so I have to keep pushing my stuffing out of the way because it does annoy me, and you get little bits of filament through. Now pull through. Remember, tighten a little. Oh, maybe I've come off screen. Tighten up a little bit. Let me go back on screen for that bit. 2 together. Little tighten, because otherwise you can get like little holes, which you would actually get away with this particular pattern because we've got the stalk to go in. But I think it's nice to keep your work nice and tight and nice and neat. Nearly closed up. Just a couple more. If it'll go in, it gets harder as you get smaller. Maybe 2 more. I'm going to make this the top because you can guarantee wherever you actually decrease, the stitches do look very fractionally larger. But because I know my stalks go in there, I know it's going to be an area that's covered up. So I'm going to leave that at that. Get my rather large scissors and fasten it off just by pulling it through. There we go. Now I'm going to use a large needle for this. I know I usually like to use my quite sharp one, which is there as well, but just for getting rid of this it doesn't matter so much. So I'm just going to push it through. It would help if I'd lengthened it. There we go. And I'll push it through one more time and it's done. Now I know that doesn't look like a pumpkin, it looks like an orange, but that is basically that. So now we've got to transform that into this. And how we're going to do that, we're going to use this mottled yarn that I've got. If you've got just a brown mottled or just a plain brown, that would be brilliant. It's only because I didn't have the colour I wanted and I quite fancied the variegation. So I've cut a string, I'd say what, maybe 60 centimetres ish. Better for it to be longer than shorter. In fact, I'm going to use my sharper one now because I prefer that. Find it easier to get through the stuffing as well. Always hard to thread, that's the only problem. So through it goes. Just make a reasonable size knot because you don't want it pulling through, because you're going to be pulling this quite tight, so you need it to be quite solid. So I'm going to start at this point, and all I'm going to do is push through right to my center stitch. Make sure that is not going to come out, because if it comes out when you do the next bit, you're going to have to start all over again. So I'm going to look at this like a clock. So I'm going to go from 12 o'clock, push it back in the same hole and back through this one. Pull it tight, so you can see what it's doing. It's actually pulling it in there. That's what we need. Then I'm going to go to 6 o'clock all the way around, back in the same hole and out of the same hole. So can you see how it's pulling in? Yeah. I'm now going to go, in fact no, I think I will go, I was going to go 3 o'clock, but no, I didn't, did I? I would say 2 o'clock. I'd say that's about at 2 o'clock. Again, you can add more in or less than what I'm doing. This is just what I did on this one, that's why I'm showing you. Again, pull it tight so you can now see how it's getting the little lumps. We'll go for 4 o'clock. We're just going in and out of the same hole all the time, pulling it tight. So we've got some nice shapes coming there. That one's bigger than that one, but it doesn't matter, it's a pumpkin. So I've lost my time now. Where were I going? 7 o'clock. I don't know whether that helps or not. I hope that helps. Oh, my strings tried to go back to That'd be 8, would it? 8 o'clock. I'm really rubbish at this, aren't I? Right, pull it tight. Basically, you're just getting them even. Imagine you're cutting a piece of cake or something like that. You're just getting them evenly fitted in. Ta-da! So we have a funny little pumpkin shape. Obviously, we have to fasten this yarn off now. Hold it tight because otherwise these will loosen. So that's why I'm holding it like this. Just carefully, because I don't want it too lumpy. Pull it through. But again, if it did get a bit lumpy here, it wouldn't matter because there is a little stem at the bottom of the pumpkin as well. Pull it nice. That's it. Can you see? So you've got like a little bubble, but that's good. I'll just give you a little bit more detail. And then I'm just going to push it through. And push it through. And I'm going to cut it off. So that gives us our pumpkin shape. Again, don't worry if bits are fatter, bits are thinner, it doesn't matter, because a pumpkin would be like that. I mean, these aren't even, if you look. So we have a pumpkin, so we now need a stalk. I'm going to use this nice variegated again. I've still got a little bit left of this brown. It's slowly going paler as I'm going along, but that makes them individual, doesn't it? This is, again, mind-blowingly easy. We have our slip knot, we have our 2 chain, and we have 6 double crochets into that first one, exactly like we started at the beginning. So 2, 3, 4, up or not, 5 and 6. Now pull that nice and tight. Now we're just going to go in 1 double crochet into each of the double crochet. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. It gets a little bit fiddly to hold this when you're only doing that, and also remember at the moment it's inside out, so I'm just going to pull that tight and I'm going to try, doesn't always do it the first point, there we go, and push it through, because otherwise it makes it hard to get into your stitches. So another round of 6. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and 1 more, so we've got 4 rounds of 6 in each round. So 2, 3, 4, so you can see you don't need much of this, 5 and 6. I'm going to leave it at that. Let's cut it. It's got tangled. Fasten my yarn off. Now you could make this longer. Mine are quite little stumpy stalks. You could make them a lot longer and maybe curl them over. If you've watched my previous pumpkin one, you can see I've done the tendrils. They would look quite nice, sort of coming from it. You could do them in a green or in a brown, they'd all be different. So you can mix and match your styles a little bit. Now I don't know what I've done with my, oh, it's there. Nightmare for losing my needles. So, in a second, so I'm not interested in that. You could even try and tuck it up inside there, it doesn't matter. I'm not interested in it though. The other bit though, where we fastened off, I am. So I'm threading it through. Now what I actually want to do now, I'm just going to run a little running stitch just to tighten it up at the bottom, so it like sort of fastens it close. So this is a bit of a pain. I'm going to have to take that one out to put that one in because I need to get rid of this. So this is not the sewing up end, this is just that, oh, I need to get it out the way end. Right, so decide which is your top. That's my bottom because it's got that little lumpy bit as if it's the bottom of the stalk. This is the top. Now because you've gone in and out, can you see it sometimes creates a little hole, but this is going in it so it doesn't matter. So all I've done is push that through to position. Don't pull it too tight because it does shorten it. Okay, so that's positioned. This really doesn't matter, so I'm just going to take that out and cut it off after I've done this bit. So needle back to the one where we fastened off. holding it to one side, and we're going to stitch it in to place. Only needs a few stitches. Make sure it's nice and solid though. It's fiddly to get into because obviously the pumpkin's dinted in, so it makes it a little bit hard. Make sure it's not going to come out. I think I need another stitch there. So you have to sort of flatten the sides of the pumpkin while you do it. I think that's all good. Right, so I'm going to make a little knot. And then I'm going to push it through like I do with everything else, but because this is my fastening off bit, I'm going to push it through a few times because I don't want it coming undone. That should do. Right, so I can snip off that one and that one because that was only holding it in place. There we go. Let's find my little scissors, they're much nicer. And yeah, because look, it's not cut that properly. Let me cut it again. There we go. They're not sharp enough, these. My others are really nice and sharp. So we have a little pumpkin. That was simple enough. As I say, to get a larger one, it wouldn't be quite this large. I have actually increased on stitches on this. But if you do mix the two yarns together, nice and simple to do. Would keep them separate in separate bags though. So basically, just two yarns together. Give you the equivalent to maybe an Aran. It's not quite a chunky, but almost an Aran weight. So I've done them both together. So I'll just quickly show you what I did with this. Watch for these because they're a bit hard to pick up. So we've got one, we've got two. Make sure you are going in the actual chain. Do not split them. So we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. I'm not going to do any more than that, but you can see how the patterning is going to come out, and every row would be slightly different, so you get this nice effect. So I think that worked really well. I was pleased with that one. I do need to make a couple more like that, so I'll keep that one part started and I'll pop that to one side. And like I say, the next one I'm going to do is have a go with this because I think this is absolutely lush. So hope you enjoyed that. I hope you do make some pumpkins, whether they're for Halloween, whether they're just for fall or for harvest or for Thanksgiving, or just because you like pumpkins. My daughter even, should I say, loves pumpkins. She always has done, you know, so she collects different types of pumpkins, and she likes painting them and drawing them and things like that. So some people just love pumpkins. I love eating pumpkins. Looking forward to getting ours very soon, so we can be making some pumpkin soup. So I hope you enjoyed that. Hope you enjoy making your little pumpkins. Please like, subscribe and share, and don't forget the little notification bell at the bottom if you do want to get the updates as soon as I've done my tutorial. So have fun this weekend, and we'll look forward to seeing you all soon.